I thought that it might help you to understand my position better if you knew a little bit more about the journey that brought me here. And by that you might gain some insight into just why I am so keen to encourage others not to accept everything that they hear on face value, or believe the trite statements of others, but rather to investigate further, to come to some personal understanding about the fundamental nature of reality. I was a very precocious child, a fact that displeased many adults and especially my teachers, because I would often ask difficult questions for which there are no satisfactory answers. And it wasn't as if I was doing it on purpose just to be annoying or to embarrass them. It's just that I wanted to understand exactly why things are the way they are. And because my curiosity is not easily satisfied, then I can't be put off by the standard pat answers. And there isn't anything special about this kind of curiosity. For instance, it is common for a young child to ask their mother, "Mummy, where did I come from?" For which there is the standard answer, "You came from my tummy, my darling." Of course, by that she doesn't mean that a child is born from a mother's stomach, because it is difficult to think of a way to explain to a small child the differences between male and female anatomy. And so we tend to give such answers that are only partially true. But for this kind of answer, there are consequential complications. For instance, one young child from our monastery, having been told he came from his mother's stomach, made a completely logical assumption, and started looking in the toilet bowl to see if there were any babies in there. Because of course, young children are prone to ask where the food goes when you eat it, and ultimately what happens to that. My point here is that when you give these kinds of standard or pat answers, you are inviting others to point out your own self-contradictory statements. And that applies equally to primary school education as it does to physics, religion, or philosophy. So in this way, a child learns that they were born from their mother, and likewise that their mother was born from their grandmother, and so on and so on. And depending on that child's tenacity, eventually the question will arise, well, where did the first human come from? Now, Christianity states that man was made out of clay by God, and although the purpose of this isn't clear, at this point, if one is prone to accept the common consensus, then one may not be inclined to take the matter any further. Of course, these days, most Westerners do not accept the creationist view, and in general place their faith in science. Equally, there are those who wish to reconcile their religious beliefs with the modern scientific paradigm. And so they try to reinterpret the literal meaning of the scriptures in a way that validates religious presentations in the context of more recent discoveries. For example, they might claim, when the Bible says God created the universe, it really means that God created the laws of physics, and so set the wheels in motion, so to speak. For those like me, for whom such partial answers do nothing to quench their thirst for knowledge, rather than bring an end to all inquiry, such answers only raise further questions. Questions such as, well, if God created the universe, then who or what created God? The truth is that these questions are not easily answered, and for many, whether or not one can find answers to these metaphysical paradoxes is of little importance. And this isn't a foolish view in any way. In fact, it's quite pragmatic. The basic notion is, well, what difference does it make where the universe came from? We're here anyway, aren't we? And we better get on with it. For many, acceptance of received wisdom is the path of least resistance. And whether that wisdom be creationism or the Big Bang Theory, we are often happy not to take the investigation any further. The truth is that we are just looking for something to believe in, and as long as an explanation is in harmony with our own way of thinking, then we will readily accept that as an article of blind faith or trite belief. If you are a Christian, then, let me be clear, I am not asking you to question the Word of God, because doubting the Word of God is taught to be a great sin. But from the perspective of the Buddhist teachings, however, it is taught. Do not accept out of mere respect or reverence, but analyze what I have said, just as a goldsmith tests gold by rubbing, cutting, and burning it to see if it is authentic. Now, it would be fair to say that this very teaching is what defines me as a Buddhist, and whether it's because I'm a stubborn individual or just have a difficult character in general, I find it intolerable to be expected to accept the statements of others without being able, by my own logic, reasoning, and experience, to see the truth behind those statements for myself. To give you an example from my own experience of Christianity, although neither of my parents are religious in any way, at some point we started going to church, and this is not something that we normally did, not even at Easter or at Christmas. The reason was that my younger brother had never been baptized, and then when he was 10 years old, my parents suddenly decided that he should be christened. And for that to happen, we needed to be part of a congregation. And so we started going to church for a short time. Well, the kids normally get dumped in Sunday school while the parents attend the sermon. And I'd thought a lot about the Christian position and had some doubts about what I'd heard. And so I asked the Sunday school teacher an innocent question. I asked, "Miss, God is omnipotent, right?" And she nodded in agreement. "And God is omniscient and made me and the universe and everything in it. Isn't that so?" The teacher beamed a big smile at me and replied, Yes, that's right, little boy. God knows everything and is all-powerful. He created the universe and everything in it." I guess she was pleased that a young boy had been paying attention in her class. But there was something niggling in the back of my mind, and I really needed further clarification, so I asked another question. I said, if God intentionally makes me bad, why should I go to hell? I mean, God is omniscient, right? He knows everything that will happen to me. And what's more, God is all-powerful, so why wouldn't He just make me good, so I wouldn't have to suffer? Well, the teacher was furious, and she howled at me, "Shut your mouth!" And I was kicked out of Sunday school and never allowed to return. From that day onwards, I had to sit with the adults and listen to the sermon, which I found exceptionally boring. But I guess that was the point. It was supposed to be some sort of punishment. Now, although this little episode didn't help me to give rise to strong faith in Christianity, I wouldn't say that this kind of reaction is exclusive to people with strong religious bias. And in fact, I've been on the receiving end of just this kind of reaction when asking difficult questions of science teachers and academics, but notably, also people on YouTube claiming spiritual realization, who have strong bias towards their spiritual assumptions and become uncomfortable when asked difficult questions for which they have no definite answers. So I hope that this will give you a basic idea of what has motivated me on this path to gaining authentic knowledge. There's still a lot to say on this subject, but I won't go on about it anymore just now and leave it for another video. So thank you very much for your patience, and it is my sincere wish that you will find what you're looking for. And until next time, then see you later.